Michael DeSanta is a man full of contradictions. He once was a small-time crook from a broken home, then a master thief, and finally, believe it or not, a Hollywood producer. Before GTA 5 even begins, he's faked his death, betrayed his crew, and bought his way into a normal life that he doesn't even like. But Michael's story isn't just about trading crime for cameras. His story begins way back, probably in the mid-1960s. Michael grew up in a trailer park, a far cry from the fancy mansion he'd eventually call home. Unlike his own spoiled kids, Michael didn't have much. His dad was a real piece of work, an alcoholic and abusive who eventually just vanished. Michael's mom would tell him all sorts of wild tales about where his dad went. He skipped town, got hit by a train, or even joined the Navy. Can you imagine the kind of childhood that creates? Now, despite all that, Michael had some talent. In high school, he was a star football quarterback, the kind who'd get his picture in the paper. But his temper, combined with constant injuries, meant he had to hang up his cleats and leave the sport he was good at. It seems like even early on, Michael's own personality got in the way of his success. By the time he was 20, Michael had already spent time behind bars. Not once, but twice. Prison isn't exactly a charm school, but he did pick up some unexpected skills. You know, like tattooing his name on a cellmate's backside. His first score was in 1988, pulling in $10,000 from a small business outside Carcer City. He was good at this too. He became a sharp shooter and a natural leader for heists. This is also when he met Lester Crest, a true mastermind who would become a key player in many of Michael's biggest jobs. Michael's path truly collided with Trevor Phillips during a cross-border smuggling run. Trevor was waiting for his boss when he saw two dust trails instead of one. Out of the first car popped Michael, and out of the second, an older civilian Michael had just carjacked. As Michael tried to run, the civilian yelled to Trevor about what happened. Now, Trevor, well, being Trevor, didn't hesitate. He just shot the poor guy in the eye with a flare gun, killing him horribly. Then they dumped the body in a lake, and Trevor later described it as awful because the flare was still burning in the man's head. Both of them actually threw up from the smell. As horrific as it was, that moment showed them they made a good team. Michael took a liking to Trevor despite his madness and made him a partner. They had some solid wins for a while, but Michael later admitted they were always broke and always on the run. Trevor's violent outbursts often left a trail of bodies, and Michael's habit of quoting movies during jobs didn't exactly help them stay low-key. But with Lester and others by their side, they pulled off scores across the Midwest, always chasing that one big payday. In the early 1990s, Michael, Trevor, and another friend went to a strip club. That's where Michael met Amanda. She was originally interested in the other guy, but then she started flirting with Michael, and they began a relationship. Michael, using his ill-gotten gains, even paid for Amanda to get breast implants, which, oddly enough, helped her stripping and prostitution career. Who could have guessed? This even led to Michael running his own prostitution ring. After a few months, Michael and Amanda got married and had two kids, Tracy and Jimmy, all while still living in that trailer park. This is where Trevor began to see Michael as soft, because Michael was actually questioning his criminal life, worrying about his new family. In turn, Michael started to really dislike Trevor's unstable behavior, fearing he might one day hurt his wife and kids. Trevor later brought another criminal into the fold, Brad Snyder. Michael and Brad didn't exactly hit it off. They often didn't trust each other during jobs. Trevor even said Brad once planned to ditch Michael and just work with him. But Trevor, despite his wildness, stayed loyal to Michael. Then, sometime in 2004, Michael met Dave Norton, a corrupt FIB agent. They made a secret deal. Michael would cut ties with Trevor and Brad in exchange for a new life. Michael would pay Dave a hefty 5-figure sum every month, and Dave would move Michael and his family to Los Santos with new identities. As part of this crooked deal, Michael ratted out their upcoming robbery of a cash storage place in Ludendorff, North Yankton. The plan was a twisted one. Dave would wait near their escape point with a sniper rifle. He would kill Trevor because Michael believed Trevor would come after him and his family if he found out about the deal. Shoot Michael, who would pretend to be hit but was actually wearing a bulletproof vest, and arrest Brad. This plan was supposed to be a win-win. Michael would get a clean slate, and Dave would get a huge career boost for supposedly taking down America's most wanted man. But as with most plans in the criminal underworld, things went sideways. A guard at the front gate was shot and killed. Trevor then killed another guard who snuck up on Michael and held him at gunpoint. When Michael, Brad, and Trevor tried to escape, they were ambushed by over a dozen police officers, forcing them to shoot their way out. Their driver was killed by police, so Michael had to drive them to the spot where he and Dave had planned to meet the helicopter. The escape almost failed when a train hit their car as they tried to avoid a police roadblock. Then Dave accidentally shot Brad instead of Trevor because Brad walked into the line of fire. Dave then shot Michael as planned, and Michael pretended to be bleeding out, begging Trevor to leave him behind. Trevor, completely enraged, shot many police officers and even briefly took a woman hostage before barely escaping with his life. Trevor was never caught and went into hiding, believing Michael was dead. After this, Michael Townley was officially declared dead and buried in the Ludendorff cemetery, but it was actually Brad who was buried in Michael's grave, having died from his gunshot wound. Dave and Michael both went to the funeral, with Michael watching from a distance. News reports claimed Michael was killed, Brad was imprisoned, and Trevor was still on the loose. Michael believed Trevor had eventually gotten himself killed, though he never got solid proof. Michael and his family, now using the surname De Santa, an old alias of Michael's, moved into a sprawling mansion in Rockford Hills, Los Santos. But Michael's new life, the one he sacrificed so much for, slowly fell apart. He became more and more unhappy, oddly missing his old life of crime, despite thinking he wanted a family life. He spent most of his days trying to escape the sadness by drinking, lounging unhappily by his pool, or cheating on Amanda with strippers. Amanda eventually caught up. Michael's neglect, self-centeredness, and his cheating led Amanda to blow a lot of their savings on plastic surgery and start cheating herself to get back at him. Their marriage devolved into a sort of open relationship. They wouldn't tell each other about their affairs. It wouldn't cost the other money, and it wouldn't happen in the house. At the same time, Tracy and Jimmy stopped respecting their dad because he didn't approve of their lifestyle choices. Jimmy was a lazy video game addicted stoner, and Tracy was a demanding girl who would do anything for fame. Suffering a midlife crisis and a failing marriage, Michael started seeing Dr. Isaiah Friedlander, an expensive psychologist who, frankly, didn't seem to care much about Michael's actual problems. At one point, Friedlander even gave Michael medication that made him cry, wet himself, fall asleep at dinner, and howl at night. Realizing he got the doses wrong, he thankfully took Michael off them. In 2013, 9 years after faking his own death, Michael was just leaving a therapy session when fate threw someone unexpected in his path, Franklin Clinton. The two crossed paths outside the office, and in a casual conversation, Michael unknowingly pointed Franklin and his friend Lamar toward a car they were out to repossess. Not long after, Michael's son Jimmy bought an SUV from Simeon Yetarian, a slick Armenian car dealer running a shady business full of fake credit deals. When Jimmy conveniently missed a payment, Simeon sent Franklin to repossess the car straight from the De Santa home. Franklin slipped quietly into the garage and found the SUV, but as he pulled out, Michael sprang up from under a pile of blankets in the back seat, a pistol aimed at Franklin's head. Calm and cool, Michael told Franklin to drive straight to the dealership. Along the way, he even joked about buying Franklin a drink. When they arrived, still holding him at gunpoint, Michael made Franklin ram the SUV through the dealership's front window. Then, tossing some cash Franklin's way, he sent him off before beating Simeon senseless, warning him to never mess with his family again. A few days later, Michael was lounging in his backyard, sipping whiskey and trying to drown out the sound of Amanda and Tracy arguing. That's when Franklin strolled in, having taken Michael's earlier drink offer seriously. Caught him off guard, but amused. $1,000. Michael agreed to hit a bar with him, but before they got there, Jimmy called. He tried to sell Michael's yacht, and the buyers had hijacked the trailer with Jimmy still on board. Furious, Michael and Franklin jumped into Amanda's car and gave chase. They managed to rescue Jimmy, with Franklin bravely jumping onto the yacht mid-chase to save him, though the boat was lost when the car's engine gave out. Michael was mad but secretly impressed by Franklin's guts. Not long after, Michael came home to find Amanda in bed with her tennis coach, who bolted in his underwear. Michael, burning with rage, called on Franklin again. The two chased the coach to a fancy house hanging over a hillside in Vinewood Hills. Michael wasn't done. He had Franklin attach a winch from their truck to the house's support beams and then ripped the deck right off the cliff. Franklin was stunned, but Michael felt like justice had been served. On the way back, Michael got a call from the coach. Turns out the house wasn't his. It belonged to the mistress of Martin Madrazo, the feared Mexican cartel leader. Madrazo's men came after them, but Michael and Franklin fought them off. Later, Madrazo himself showed up at Michael's house with his crew. Franklin warned Michael how dangerous this man was. Madrazo calmly asked for a bat, gave Michael a light smack, and then demanded $2.5 million to fix the damage. It was money Michael didn't have. The threat was clear: pay up or else. With no other choice, Michael picked up the phone and called an old partner, Lester. Michael tried to unwind with an old noir movie, hoping to escape the stress for a bit. But upstairs, Jimmy was yelling and cursing at his video game. Frustrated, Michael went up to tell him off. When Jimmy snapped back with an insult, Michael lost it. He hurled a chair straight at the TV. That only made Jimmy angrier. Michael, still seething, dared his son to hit him. But as quickly as the rage had come, it started to fade. He apologized and told Jimmy he was wasting his life. Wanting to reconnect, Michael convinced a grumbling Jimmy to go to Vespucci Beach for some father-son time. But even in the car, Jimmy kept arguing, blaming Michael for everything: his mental health, his life, all of it. At the beach, they had a quick bike race to the Del Perro Pier. Still mad about the TV and being dragged outside, Jimmy looked for a way to push back. He pointed out a fancy yacht nearby, casually mentioning that Tracy was on it with porn producers, possibly doing things she shouldn't. Michael, stunned and furious, realized Jimmy had only agreed to come to stir up trouble. He ripped off his shirt, dove into the water, and swam to the yacht. Once on board, he lost it. He tossed a speaker into the ocean and shoved a man off the boat. He grabbed Tracy and forced her onto a sea shark to take her back to shore. But the producers chased them, turning it into a full-blown shootout on the water. Michael managed to escape, but once on land, both Tracy and Jimmy walked away, still angry. Later, Michael met with Lester, an old friend with shady skills. Lester agreed to help him get the money he owed Madrazo, but only if Michael sabotaged a new phone that Jay Norris, the Life Invader CEO, was about to present to the world. Posing as an IT guy, Michael snuck into the Life Invader office. A programmer named Ricky mistook him for tech support and led him upstairs. Michael cleaned up Ricky's computer, swatting pop-ups and running antivirus. Then he found the prototype phone and secretly swapped in an explosive battery Lester had made. Back home, Michael tuned into the live broadcast of the product reveal. As Norris showed off the phone, Michael called it. The phone exploded next to Norris's head, killing him instantly and cutting the feed. Lester was thrilled and ready to help with the next job. Together, they started planning a jewelry heist. Michael wanted Franklin involved, believing it would be a good step for him. The robbery went off without a hitch. During it, Michael knocked down a traffic cop and quoted a line from a Solomon Richards movie: "You forget 1,000 things every day, pal. Make sure this is one of them." They paid off Madrazo and each got a cut. Meanwhile, out in Shady Shores, Trevor Phillips, thought dead after their last big job, saw a news report about the heist. The cop Michael had tackled repeated that movie quote, and it hit Trevor hard. Someone was either pretending to be Michael, or Michael had never died. Trevor sent Wade to track him down. When Wade came back with news that someone matching Michael's description was living in Los Santos, Trevor knew it was him, and he was going to find him. After laying low for a few days after the jewelry store heist, Michael went to the fridge and found weed inside. He instantly knew it was Jimmy's, had kicked off an argument with Amanda, and things only got worse when her yoga instructor Fabian showed up uninvited. Michael couldn't stand him and threw out some insults right away. Then Jimmy walked in, looking for his weed, and Michael started messing with him over it. Out of nowhere, Trevor showed up, shocking everyone. He looked around at Michael's messed up family and asked, "Where's Tracy?" Jimmy broke the tension, saying she was auditioning for fame or shame. Knowing how bad her dancing was, Michael and Trevor rushed to the Maze Bank Arena. They got there just in time to see Tracy doing a super cringy over-the-top dance. Then Laszlo, the show's host, jumped in and started dancing with her, and that was it. Michael and Trevor lost it. They chased Laszlo in a stolen truck all the way to the Los Santos River. Laszlo's car broke down, and Trevor made him strip and dance while filming it on his phone. Michael thought it was hilarious. Tracy, though, was furious, and Michael didn't even care, which only made things worse between them. Soon after, Michael got a call from Dave Norton, the FIB guy who helped fake his death. Dave knew Michael was behind the jewelry heist and told him to meet at the Galileo Observatory. There, Dave said the FIB was catching on, and if they found out about their deal, they'd both be in serious trouble. So he gave Michael a choice: help him with some jobs, and he'd keep covering for him. Michael agreed. His first job was to find a guy named Ferdinand Kerimov, who the IAA claimed was dead. Dave knocked Michael out to sneak him into the morgue. Michael woke up mid-autopsy, fought off one of the coroners, and searched the place. He found Kerimov's ID on another body and called Dave. Then he escaped and hit up Franklin. When they met, Michael told him about his past with the FIB and warned him to leave town. But Franklin decided to stay and help. He wanted to return the favor. That's when Steve Haynes came into the picture. Dave's boss, a high-ranking FIB agent and totally corrupt. He told Michael that Kerimov was alive and being held by the IAA downtown. Michael was now part of a team with Trevor and Franklin. He introduced them to each other. And then he and Trevor flew to the IAA building in a chopper while Franklin gave sniper backup from a nearby roof. Michael rappelled down the side of the building, busted in and rescued Kerimov. The FIB took him from there. Later on, Michael and Trevor were called to a warehouse at the port. Michael was sent with Dave to kill another suspected terrorist named Tahir Javan. While Haynes and Trevor tortured Kerimov to get info on what Javan looked like, Kerimov talked, and Michael took Javan out. After all that, Michael tried to chill on the couch with a movie and a smoke, but Amanda walked in and got mad at him for smoking inside. Another fight. Then Fabian showed up and invited Michael to do yoga with them. Amanda didn't love the idea, but they gave it a shot. It actually went okay until Fabian pulled a weird sexual pose on Amanda. Michael tried to attack Fabian but missed and fell into the pool instead. Amanda stormed off with Fabian. Later, Michael asked Jimmy to hang out. They went to Burger Shot and met one of Jimmy's friends, who gave Jimmy weed and a soda. On the drive home, Jimmy convinced Michael to take a sip. A minute later, Michael started feeling weird. Jimmy then admitted he drugged the drink with ketamine. He pushed Michael out of the car, said he was taking the car and some cash, and told Michael he was moving out. Michael started hallucinating, got abducted by aliens, and fell from the sky. He woke up in his underwear a few blocks from home. When he finally got back, he found a note from Amanda. She said she and the kids were leaving him, this time for good, because of everything he'd done. So later on, Trevor hits up Michael and Franklin for a heist he's cooking up. The plan? Steal some mystery cargo from a private military group called Merryweather. Everything goes smoothly, but turns out Trevor accidentally stole a super weapon. Lester shows up right after and freaks out, saying it's way too dangerous, especially in Trevor's hands. If they don't give it back, they'll all be hunted down non-stop. Michael and Franklin agreed to return it, and Trevor, super mad he can't keep it, lets it go anyway. Not long after, the gang gets called by agents Haynes and Norton for another job. This time, it's an armored truck full of drug money from the IAA. The agents are basically useless, so Michael suggests they do a classic Blitz play style robbery. Despite heavy resistance from the cops and SWAT, they pull it off. Michael delivers the cash to billionaire Devin Weston, who offers him a deal. Helps steal rare cars in exchange for a shot at working with Michael's movie idol, Solomon Richards. Michael jumps at the chance, and with Trevor and Franklin's help, pulls off the car heist. Eventually, Michael meets Richards, who hires him as an assistant. But there's drama. While working on the movie Meltdown, actor Milton McIlroy and his agent Rocco Pelosi, who's tied to the mob, try to force Richards to change Milton's deal. When Richards refuses, they get the director to stall production. Michael tracks down Rocco, beats him up, and takes Milton and the director on a wild helicopter ride to scare them into backing down. It works. Richards is impressed and tells Michael he's on track to become an associate producer. Then Martin Madrazo, the crime boss, calls in a favor. He asks Michael and Trevor to shoot down a jet carrying his cousin, who's on his way to testify against him, and recover some documents. Michael uses a remote sniper from a van to down the jet, and Trevor grabs the files. But when they return, Madrazo refuses to pay. Furious, Trevor attacks him and kidnaps his wife, Patricia, after noticing how badly Madrazo treats her. To stay alive, Michael hides out with Trevor and Patricia in Sandy Shores. Later, Haynes and Norton call up the crew for a dangerous job: break into the Humane Labs facility and steal a deadly neurotoxin. To afford the gear they need, like a cargo bob, they plan another heist. Rob the Blaine County Savings Bank in Paleto Bay. Trevor claims it's loaded with dirty money stolen by corrupt cops. While getting ready, Franklin calls Michael and Trevor. He's tracking the last of the O'Neill brothers, meth-cooking rednecks still mad about Trevor blowing up their lab. Michael and Trevor fly out, and using a thermal scope rifle, Michael snipes two of them. Franklin, with help from Lamar's dog Chop, takes out the last one. With stolen body armor and big guns, the team hits the bank. The job's a success, but most of the cash goes to Haynes and Norton so they can fund the Humane Labs mission, annoying the crew. While waiting, Michael and Trevor do one more job: rob a Merryweather train full of gold and valuable items to pay off Madrazo. Trevor crashes the train over Raton Canyon, and Michael drives into the water to grab the loot, including an ancient Aztec statue. Trevor's not thrilled with the item, but chills out when Michael brings up their dream score: robbing the Union Depository. Trevor says it can't be done, seems almost hopeless, but changes his mind when Michael challenges him, asking if he's too scared to try. Finally, the crew meets up with Haynes and Norton for the Humane Labs job. Haynes freaks out, realizing they need 3 more guys, something he forgot to mention. With no choice, Haynes and Norton help out. Michael and Norton go in for the toxin, while Trevor and Franklin handle the gateway. The job is a success, but as the chopper takes too long to leave, Haynes shoots himself in the leg to act like a victim and buy them time. It works, and everyone gets out clean. After making it back safely to Los Santos and sorting things out with Madrazo, Michael thought things might finally calm down. But then, bam, Trevor shows up at his house out of nowhere. He's got a wild idea: break Brad out of jail. Michael's not into it, and when he pushes back, the whole thing explodes into an argument. That's when Trevor finally pieces it all together. Brad isn't in jail. He's dead. And worse, he's buried in the grave that was supposed to be Michael's in North Yankton. Trevor bolts straight to Ludendorff to confirm it, with Michael racing after him. Sure enough, Trevor finds the truth at the grave, but before they can fully deal with it, a bunch of Triad goons show up. Turns out their boss, Wei Chang, wanted to meet Trevor. He'd hoped to partner with the O'Neill brothers before Trevor wiped them out. Even weirder, the Triads thought Trevor and Michael were a couple based on what they saw back in Sandy Shores. A shootout breaks out. Trevor escapes, leaving Michael to deal with the attackers. He gets captured and dragged back to Los Santos, ending up tied up in a slaughterhouse. Chang gives Trevor a call, saying if he doesn't show up, Michael's meat. Trevor, still furious about being lied to, plays it cool, tells Chang he loves Michael dearly, and hangs up, refusing to help. Chang doesn't take it well. He orders Michael tossed into a meat grinder, but just in time, Franklin and Lester swoop in for a rescue mission. Later, Franklin asks Michael what the hell went down in North Yankton. Michael finally opens up. He admits he betrayed Trevor back in the day to protect his family. He tries to dodge more questions by bringing up Devin Weston's car job, but Franklin says it's already done, and Weston stiffed them on the cash. Michael promises to deal with Weston the next time he's at the studio. And sure enough, back at work with Solomon, things go sideways again. He catches Solomon getting roughed up by Pelosi and his thug buddy Gianni. Michael jumps into action, chases them down, and kills them both. Grateful, Solomon names Michael an associate producer on his new film. Michael's over the moon. On his way out, he leaves Amanda a voicemail telling her he's finally doing something that matters. Something good. So Michael and Franklin get pulled in for one last job by good old Steve Haynes. The mission is to break into the FIB headquarters and erase some files that could expose Heists as a double agent. Everything goes smoothly until Michael decides to delete the files on himself too. Just like that, Steve loses the leverage he had over him. Big move. Later at the court center, Michael shows up for what's supposed to be a debrief. But surprise, Heists tries to have him arrested. Guns out, everyone's yelling, and then things go completely off the rails. The IAA shows up. A rogue FIB team rolls in, and Merriweather storms the place. Heists gets shot in the leg but still manages to dip, only after killing Sanchez. Michael and Norton fight their way out thanks to Trevor showing up with backup. And even though Trevor still hates Michael, he agrees not to kill him if they can pull off the Union Depository heist. Meanwhile, Michael's tired of being alone. With help from his son Jimmy, he manages to get the family back together. Things are finally looking up. He's got the house, the family, and he's working on Solomon Richards' new movie. But of course, that doesn't last. Devin Weston decides he's gonna wreck the movie and cash in the insurance to shut the studio down and build condos. Michael's furious. He chases Weston's lawyer all the way to the airport to grab the master copy. And here's a wild twist. She ends up getting sucked into a jet engine. Yeah, brutal. But Michael gets the film, and Solomon locks it down with a big premiere. At the premiere for Meltdown, Weston shows up, totally unhinged, and threatens to kill Michael's family. Michael rushes home and finds Merriweather mercs already attacking. He takes them out and protects his family. Then he sends them away for their safety this time. The next day, Michael calls Lester from the pier, still angry but ready to go ahead with the big Union Depository hit. He also helps Franklin rescue Lamar, who got kidnapped by a rival gang. Then the crew finally pulls off the heist, over $200 million in gold. Huge score. After that, Michael goes to see Dr. Friedlander, only to find out the guy's been using their therapy sessions to get famous. Michael's pissed. Friedlander bails and later sends an apology email, which Michael ignores. Now, here's where it all comes to a head. After the heist, both Heists and Weston approach Franklin. Heists wants Trevor gone, too unstable. Weston wants Michael dead, pure revenge. Franklin's got three choices: take out Trevor, take out Michael, or call them both up and go after their enemies instead. That's where Michael's story could go in a few different directions, depending on what Franklin chooses. So, if Franklin chose to kill Trevor, option A, here's how it went down. He called up Michael to let him know the plan. Michael said it was Franklin's choice, but was down to help if needed. Franklin tracked Trevor to the Murrieta oil fields, pulled a gun on him, and Trevor took off, starting a wild chase. Franklin called Michael for backup, and right on time, Michael rammed Trevor's truck, slamming him into a gas tanker. Gas spilled everywhere. Trevor crawled out furious, calling them traitors. They were his only real friends. Then one of them shot the gas, setting Trevor on fire. As they walked off, they talked about how Trevor was always unstable. They split up, and just before leaving, Franklin joked it was an illuminating experience. Michael told him to stay alive and that the rest was bullshit. Later on, they both stuck to their story. Killing Trevor was the right call, since he was just too dangerous. But after that, they didn't hang out anymore. If they crossed paths, Michael would say he needed space. Jimmy called Michael asking what happened, and Michael kind of admitted to being involved. That upset Jimmy. He stopped talking to Michael too. Then Ron, Trevor's buddy, emailed Michael, mad about Trevor's death and the lost business. Michael didn't care. He marked it as spam and told Ron to leave him alone. Also, Trevor's cut from the Union Depository job split between Michael and Franklin. Now, if Franklin chose to kill Michael, option B, it went down like this. Franklin called and asked Michael to meet in the desert. Michael showed up. While they were there, Amanda called. Tracy got into college. Right after the call, Michael realized what was going on. Franklin brought him there to kill him. He took off in his car, and Franklin gave chase all the way to the Palmer-Taylor Power Station. They ended up on a high walkway. They fought. Franklin pushed Michael off the edge, but then caught his arm. Michael hung there for a moment. Franklin could let go or try to pull him up. If he tried to help, Michael headbutted him, and Franklin let go. Michael fell to his death. After that, Trevor, Amanda, and Jimmy all figured out what happened and cut Franklin off. Michael's family sold the house, and they got his share of the gold. Now, for the ending most players say is the real one, option C, Death Wish. Franklin decides to save both Michael and Trevor, so he calls Lester, and Lester cooks up a plan. He leaks fake info to Heists and Weston, saying the gold's being melted at a foundry. It's a trap. Both guys send in their forces, FIB agents and Merriweather squads. Franklin, Michael, Trevor, and even Lamar show up and ambush them. Once they clear out the enemies, they split the final hits. Trevor kills Heists, ends. Franklin takes out Wei Cheng. Michael deals with Stretch to keep Franklin's name clear. Then they all meet up again. Trevor had already kidnapped Weston and stuffed him in a trunk. They drive him out to a cliff, laugh in his face, and shove the car off. It explodes in the ocean. Game over for Weston. After all that chaos, Michael and Trevor finally bury the hatchet. The three agree to stay out of crime and stay friends. Michael later gets an email from Don Percival, Merryweather's CEO, basically saying thanks for killing Devin and helping him buy back shares. Michael ignores it. And if Michael and Trevor hang out after that, Michael actually apologizes and offers Trevor his share of the heist money. Trevor doesn't take the cash, but he does accept the apology. Finally, peace. In this ending, Michael stays at Richard's Majestic Studios. Fast forward to 2021. If Franklin happens to race through the studio chasing some golf carts, he might joke about hoping Michael's not working that day. It's a fun little nod that Michael's still in the game, living his Hollywood dream. If you want to see more stories like this, click the video on screen right now.